The Chim morio crawls forward, coming face to face with Yeon-myeong. A strange, unsettling noise comes from its twisted form. In an instant, it moves unnaturally fast, closing the distance and striking with its sharp claws. The attack barely grazes Yeon-myeong, but it confirms the creature's dangerous nature. Without hesitation, he grips his dagger firmly and delivers multiple quick strikes from all sides. Yeon-myeong already expects the outcome. He feels no resistance from the creature's body, as if his blade is cutting through empty air. He suspects that this is because the Chim morio is made of grudges rather than physical matter. What makes this entity even stranger is that it ignores every physical attack it receives, yet its own strikes affect the real world without any difficulty. Snaky materializes, explaining to Yeon-myeong that it is natural for his attacks to be useless. Every evil spirit, he says, is essentially a thought form, without a true physical body. He then suggests that Yeon-myeong leave the Chim morio to him. Hearing this, Yeon-myeong asks if Snaky has a way to defeat it. Snaky, now overconfident, begins releasing a thick fog. He reminds Yeon-myeong that he has forgotten something important. Snaky is not just an energy supplement for his poison techniques. As the fog spreads, covering the entire area, Snaky declares that he is an ancient evil spirit who has lived for 1,000 years. Yeon-myeong's companions struggle to see through the dense mist, their vision completely blocked. Confusion spreads among them. Meanwhile, the Chim morio, lacking intelligence, fails to comprehend the situation. It mindlessly flails in the fog, unable to react properly. Yeon-myeong warns Snaky to finish the battle quickly since too many eyes are watching them. In response, Snaky fully emerges from Yeon-myeong's body, revealing his true form. This time, he takes the shape of a massive serpent, towering over everything. Facing him, the Chim morio looks as insignificant as an insect. Snaky observes the Chim morio with amusement, acknowledging that for a newly born entity, its strength is quite remarkable. However, he confidently declares that it is no match for him, a being who has accumulated power for over 1,000 years. Without hesitation, he decides that this spirit will serve as nourishment to further increase his strength. Wasting no time, Snaky lunges forward and devours the Chim morio in a single bite. The thick fog covering the area slowly fades as he chews on his meal, savoring the energy absorbed from the defeated spirit. At that moment, Taegyo approaches, looking concerned. He asks Yeon-myeong if he is all right. Feeling slightly nervous, Yeon-myeong quickly assures him that he is fine. Meanwhile, Snaky remains occupied, still digesting the Chim morio. Yeon-myeong then explains to Taegyo that the fog earlier was part of his own energy technique. He hesitates, trying to make his explanation vague. He mentions that it is similar to an energy technique, but avoids giving too many details. Taegyo, still unsettled by what he witnessed, admits that he does not understand the nature of these demonic spirits. He has never seen such a horrifying entity in his life. Yeon-myeong, sensing that there might be more dangers ahead, requests Taegyo to take everyone and return to the Alliance headquarters. Hearing this, both Taegyo and Hyunso are taken aback. They struggle to grasp what Yeon-myeong is planning. Taegyo, unable to believe what he just heard, asks if Yeon-myeong intends to go to the demon sect headquarters alone. Hyunso tries to convince Yeon-myeong that he has already dealt with their key forces, so there is no need to push further for now. Hearing this, Yeon-myeong feels unsure how to respond to their concerns. To him, they seem overly cautious. He then explains that the Chim morio they just encountered was an evil spirit that could not be harmed by normal attacks. As they all witness, he had to use energy techniques instead of sword strikes to fight it. Based on this, he concludes that someone in the demon sect is forcibly creating evil spirits, which makes the situation even more dangerous. Realizing the implications of this, Hyunso begins to suspect that there might be multiple creatures, like the Chim morio they just fought. Yeon-myeong adds that the demon sect's main forces are still intact, which means their threat remains. Furthermore, they still need to identify the small poison demon. If that individual truly belongs to the Tang family, then it is Yeon-myeong's responsibility to deal with him personally. Yeon-myeong acknowledges that their decision may seem reckless, but he believes this is their best opportunity. Right now, there is a gap in the demon sect's defenses, and this is their chance to strike a decisive blow before they regroup. Hyunso attempts to reason with Yeon-myeong, trying to dissuade him from taking unnecessary risks. However, Taegyo intervenes, siding with Yeon-myeong's judgment. He acknowledges Yeon-myeong's exceptional skills, but reminds him that he is the one who must lead the righteous alliance. Because of this, he must act with extreme caution and make his decisions wisely. Understanding the weight of these words, Yeon-myeong agrees to be careful and promises to return with good news. Without wasting any more time, he sets off toward the demon sect headquarters, determined to face whatever lies ahead. Taegyo tells Hyunso that even if they try to stop Yeon-myeong, he will not listen. There is no one strong enough to pose a real threat to the leader of the Righteous Alliance, so they should remain patient and head back as planned. Despite saying this deep inside, Taegyo feels uneasy. The true strength of their enemies remains unknown. They have no clear idea of how many Fire Realm Masters the demon sect possesses, and the sect leader himself is an even greater concern. Rather than letting doubt cloud his mind, Taegyo chooses to wait with faith, hoping that Yeon-myeong will return safely without fail. At the Heavenly Demon Sect headquarters, an announcement is made the small poison demon is entering. The one referred to as the small poison demon is Munchin. Bak Soyeon, known as the demon healer, greets Munchin with a smirk, congratulating him. She has heard of his achievements on the battlefield and acknowledges the great merit he has earned. With amusement, she comments that he is finally starting to look like a true demon disciple. She also mentions that the poison master who leads the Yang family was proud when he received the news. Hearing this, Munchin feels a moment of unease, knowing that his master is now also his father. A few days ago, just after Munchin had reached the realm of poison, Bak Soyeon had introduced him to the head of the Yang family. This man had been supporting the demon sect for a long time and had now officially granted Munchin his status within the family. Standing before him, Munchin introduces himself as Tang Munchin and expresses his gratitude for receiving this recognition and protection. He understands that his position has now changed, and with it, his responsibilities within the sect. Poison Master Yang informs Munchin that since he has abandoned the Tang family, he can no longer use that name. Instead, he intends to adopt him as his son, giving him a new identity. From now on, he will be known as Yang Munchin. Hearing this, Munchin addresses him as father for the first time. The older man, clearly pleased, expresses his happiness. Having never had children of his own, he is delighted to finally have a son he can rely on. Returning to the present, Munchin remains deeply grateful to the family head for accepting someone like him despite his perceived shortcomings. Bak Soyeon, listening to his words, finds his response dull and uninspiring. She then brings up the subject of rewards, reminding him that now that he has achieved such merit, the sect leader will surely grant him something valuable. She asks what he would like in return for his service. Munchin considers this carefully and reveals that he is thinking of requesting the divine body techniques. The physical techniques of Kunlun had impressed him on the battlefield, and he wants to strengthen himself further. In the future, he hopes to join the pursuit team and gain even more merit. Bak Soyeon agrees that his idea has merit but dismisses it as unexciting. She points out that such techniques are so common in their library that he would stumble over them without even looking. Instead, she suggests something far more powerful, something truly fitting for his ambition. To his surprise, she recommends that he learn the original reverse blood demon technique. Munchin immediately recognizes the name. He has heard of it before. It was the very technique the heavenly demonic forces used when they invaded the Tang family in the past. This forbidden demonic art temporarily forces the body to explode with overwhelming potential, multiplying one's strength for a short time. Munchin hesitates and expresses his concern about the dangers of the reverse blood demon technique. If his internal energy were to run out, he would either die or fall into demonic possession, making it an extremely risky choice. Bak Soyeon, however, reassures him. While it may be true for an ordinary demon disciple, she reminds him that he has already mastered the immortal demon technique. She then urges him to consider the possibilities. If the reverse blood demon technique, which drains life force, were to be combined with the immortal demon art, which prevents death, the results could be beyond anything imaginable. Hearing this, Munchin is left speechless. The idea is both shocking and tempting. Meanwhile, Bak Soyeon bites her lips, unable to hide her curiosity. She is eager to see what would happen if these two powerful martial arts were merged. Meanwhile, at the Alliance headquarters, Jigel Changshin is busy making preparations for the upcoming war. As he finalizes the strategy, an elder approaches and questions what he is working on. Jigel Changshin calmly explains that he is simply double-checking the troop formations to ensure everything is in order. He expresses his gratitude to the elder, acknowledging that because of his swift organization, over 2,000 soldiers are now ready to move within just a few days. The elder then asks if he believes the Alliance leader has already encountered the demonic master of Kunlun. Jigel Changshin remains hopeful, wishing that they are not too late. He carefully analyzes the situation. If the Alliance leader manages to bring back the two Taoists, along with Taegyo and the warriors from Kunlun, their side will have a total of 6 Fire Realm Masters. In comparison, the so-called Heavenly Pervert commands 5 Fire Realm Masters. As long as their forces remain steady, they should be able to hold the enemy in check, preventing them from gaining the upper hand at least until Yeon-myeong returns. For now, their priority is to maintain balance while conserving their strength. What Jigel Changshin does not realize, however, is that far more time will pass before they are reunited with Yeon-myeong, and when he finally returns, it will not be as expected. Instead of simply regrouping, he will arrive after accomplishing something earth-shattering at the demon sect headquarters, something beyond anyone's imagination. Meanwhile, at the heavenly demon sect headquarters in Tianjin, Xinjiang, Munchen stands before the sect leader, receiving recognition for his efforts. The sect leader commends him for his cooperation with the left and right envoys, emphasizing that his contributions have brought their plan one step closer to advancing into the Central Plains. Seated on a grand throne that radiates an overwhelming demonic presence, the sect leader's very existence exerts pressure on those around him. His voice carries an undeniable authority as he acknowledges Muchen's service. As a reward for such dedication, he offers him the chance to make a request. Whatever Muchen desires, he will grant it. Faced with this opportunity, Muchen feels his mind race. This is his first private audience with the sect leader, and the experience is far more intense than he had imagined. The sheer weight of the leader's aura makes it difficult for him to think clearly, and the pressure is suffocating. Sweat drips from his forehead as he struggles to control his breathing. Despite his unease, he forces himself to speak. With an unsteady voice, he finally expresses his wish to obtain the true version of the reverse blood demon technique. The sect leader's expression changes as he hears the request. His gaze sharpens and he repeats the name of the technique as if weighing Muchen's words carefully. Silence fills the room for a brief moment before he leans back on his bed, seemingly deep in thought. He then remarks that this cannot be mere coincidence. The fact that Muchen, someone who already possesses the immortal demon technique, is now asking for the reverse blood demon techniques suggests a greater influence behind his decision. The sect leader quickly deduces that Bak Soyeon must have been the one who encouraged this idea. A smirk appears on his lips as he reflects on her playful and unpredictable nature. Her curiosity and mischief have always been part of her charm, traits that often lead to unexpected developments. However, setting that amusement aside, he focuses on the matter at hand. Without hesitation, he reveals the truth. There is no such thing as the true version of the reverse blood demon technique. Hearing these words, Muchen feels his entire world crumble. Everything he believed about the reverse blood demon technique is now in question. The sect leader continues, explaining in detail. From the very beginning, the technique has always been one that manipulates specific acupoints to circulate demonic energy and unleash hidden potential in an explosive surge. If one is willing to risk death as the immortal demon once did and activates all acupoints at once, then that itself becomes the so-called true version of the technique. Muchen, struggling to process this revelation, instinctively tries to argue. Based on everything he has learned so far, what the sect leader is saying should not be possible. However, before he can even finish his thought, he suddenly notices something unusual. A terrifying realization washes over him. His body is completely unresponsive. No matter how much effort he puts into moving, he remains frozen in place. Panic rises within him as the truth dawns on him. This is the heavenly demon technique, the very ability that Bak Soyeon had once mentioned. The sect leader watches him with amusement, then asks if he is confused. Rather than explaining in words, he decided it would be faster for Muchen to experience the effects firsthand. Snapping his fingers, he triggers something deep within Muchen's body. Immediately, a surge of energy erupts within Muchen, causing his body to swell unnaturally. Intense pain spreads through him as if his very being is about to tear apart from the inside. His vision blurs and agony overtakes his senses. Seeing Muchen's reaction, the sect leader laughs, clearly entertained. He casually remarks that this was only a light overload of demonic energy. If he had done it with full force, Muchen would have lost control entirely, plunging into a berserk state. With a more serious tone, he explains the true power of the heavenly demon technique. When mastered, this ability allows absolute control over demonic energy, not just within oneself, but over all demonic energy in the surrounding area. This means that the sect leader holds the power of life and death over every demon within this sect, bending their very existence to his will. However, there was one exception. One who escaped even this absolute control. That exception was the immortal demon. Recalling that moment, the sect leader reveals the terrifying truth. He had once tried to force the immortal demon into a berserker state by overloading his demonic energy. Yet instead of breaking his body, the technique had only unlocked his latent power. Instead of falling under control, he had become something far worse, an uncontrollable immoral monster, free from any restraints. Still struggling to endure the unbearable pain coursing through his body, Muchen forces himself to speak. His mind races as he recalls the stories he has heard. If the immortal demon truly became an uncontrollable monster, then what happened to him in the end? He remembers hearing from Lord Demon that the sect leader at the time had killed him. Hearing this, the current sect leader lets out a small chuckle before responding. He admits that Bak Soyeon had not been given the full details. The truth is far more complex. The immortal demon had overused the reverse blood demon technique, constantly drawing on the latent power of the immortal demon technique. In the end, he had reached a point where even his own regenerative abilities could not sustain him. His body had become too unstable, and ultimately he had self-destructed under the overwhelming force of his own power. With this, the sect leader presents his final conclusion. If Munchen, who has already learned the immortal demon technique, pushes the reverse blood demon technique to its absolute limit, then that alone would become the so-called true version of the technique. However, he warns that achieving such a state is no simple task. The sect leader then looks directly at Munchen, his expression cold and calculating. He informs him that he will not be able to open all the acupoints of the reverse blood demon technique on his own. If he truly seeks power equal to the immortal demon, then he must go through the same berserk state that once consumed his predecessor. Without complete mastery of the immortal demon technique, forcing this transformation would most likely lead to his own death rather than granting him ultimate strength. Pausing for a moment, the sect leader then asks him one final question: does he still wish to pursue this path? Munchen does not hesitate. Overwhelmed by his thirst for power, he drops to his knees before the sect leader, bowing deeply in submission. His voice is unwavering as he gives his answer, fully committing himself to the risk. Deep inside, his thoughts burn with unshaken determination. If he can become far stronger than he is now, if he can gain enough power to finally take revenge on that wretch Tang Yeon-myeong, then he is willing to risk his life 100 times over without a second thought. With unwavering resolve, he makes his request. He asks the sect leader to grant him the true reverse blood demon technique, prepared to embrace whatever consequences come with it. Meanwhile, inside his camp, Jigul Changshin studies the map with a deep sense of unease. Something about the current situation does not feel right. The forces of the Dark Lord of Destruction, who had been launching attacks on martial arts families for a brief period, have suddenly stopped moving in an unusual manner. The inactivity seems unnatural. And as he reflects on the possibilities, a troubling thought crosses his mind. Could it be that the Dark Lord of Destruction sustained serious injuries during the battle against the Sword King? If that is not the case, then what could be causing this unexpected shift in movement? The uncertainty lingers, leaving him restless. Before he can think further, Yang, the master of the flowering state from the Huazhen sect, suddenly enters his camp in haste. His expression is tense and urgency is evident in his movements. Jigul Changshin immediately notices his distress and questions what has happened to make him rush in like this. The situation must be serious. Yang wastes no time and delivers the shocking news: there has been a major development. The forces of the Dark Lord of Destruction have begun to move once again. But more importantly, they have done something unprecedented. They have invaded Shaolin. Meanwhile, at Shaolin, the warriors of the Dark Lord stand face to face with the monks who guard the sacred temple. The air is thick with tension as both sides prepare for an inevitable clash. One of the Shaolin monks steps forward, his voice filled with righteous anger. He cannot believe the audacity of the invaders. To attack Shaolin, a place under imperial protection, is an act of madness. Do they truly believe they can commit such an offense without facing severe consequences? If they continue with their tyranny, this will no longer be just a matter of martial arts conflicts, it will escalate into a crime against the nation itself. In response, standing calmly with his army, Yan Jung-hyuk, the young cult lord of the heavenly demon divine cult, asks the monk if he really thinks so. The monk says what? Yan Jung-hyuk remains calm as he looks at the Shaolin monk before him. Without hesitation, he remarks that the esteemed emperor seems to value practicality and safety more than unwavering faith in Buddha. The monk, visibly shaken, stammers in confusion, struggling to comprehend what he just heard. Fear takes hold of him, his voice faltering as he tries to respond. However, before he can even finish his sentence, Yan Jung-hyuk moves with terrifying speed. With a single precise slice of his sword, he cuts through the entire army of monks in an instant. Blood sprays across the battlefield as bodies collapse where they stand. The once proud warriors of Shaolin are reduced to lifeless remnants in a mere moment. Standing amidst the carnage, Yan Jung-hyuk surveys the destruction with an air of absolute dominance. He then declares with unwavering certainty that neither the imperial court nor the righteous alliance will come to their aid. There is no force capable of saving them now. Even if reinforcements were to arrive, it would make no difference. From this day forward, not a single monk will live to witness the evening moon. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Jigul Changshin reads through an official document with growing disbelief. The words before him shake him to his core. The government has formally stated that it will not interfere in martial matters. A dreadful realization strikes him. Could it be that the imperial court has chosen to abandon Shaolin entirely? His shock quickly turns to urgency. Raising his voice, he calls out to Yang and orders him to gather troops immediately. Even if they are late, they must not hesitate. Shaolin cannot be left to its fate. Before anything else can be done, Hakon, the swordmaster of Jongnam, suddenly enters the camp. He is not alone. A shadowy figure accompanies him, moving with an aura of quiet authority. Without waiting, Hakun speaks, firmly stating that rushing to Shaolin as they are will not be enough. Jigel Changshin turns toward him, his expression tense. He demands to know who the stranger beside him is. The figure steps forward, revealing himself. It is none other than Song Qinon, the revered sword saint of Wu-Tang. The presence of the sword saint here is unexpected. With urgency in his voice, Jigel questions why Song Qinon has come when he should be stationed at Mount Wu-Tang, leading his people. Song Qinon, maintaining his composed demeanor, does not waste time on pleasantries. Instead, he directly addresses Jigel Changshin, reminding him of his role. If he truly considers himself a soldier of the Righteous Alliance, then he must understand that they absolutely cannot send troops to Shaolin at this moment. Jigel Changshin, unable to believe what he is hearing, reacts with disbelief. The very idea of abandoning Shaolin is unthinkable. Surely Song Qinon is not suggesting that even the Righteous Alliance should turn its back on them. Song Qiong's face remains grim as he responds. He makes it clear that this is not what he wants, but the situation is far worse than they had anticipated. It is not just the Dark Lord of Destruction who is making a move. Demonic forces have also begun mobilizing in Shaanxi, signaling a much larger threat. Both Jigel Changshin and Ok Yang freeze in shock at the revelation. The name Shaanxi alone is enough to strike fear in their hearts. Stuttering, Ok Yang struggles to voice his realization, asking if it could possibly mean what he fears. Song Qiong confirms his worst suspicions. The three demonic families that serve under the Dark Lord of Destruction have now begun their operations. Among them, the Shaanxi Hwa family has officially announced a grand dispatch ceremony, marking their participation in the upcoming war between the righteous and the demonic. Meanwhile, deep within the house of the Shaanxi Hwa family, an air of anticipation fills the halls. Hua Yeon-jung, the great madam of the family, sits calmly as she pours tea into a cup. Watching the steam rise, she acknowledges that the long-awaited day has finally arrived. Her thoughts turn to Mu Riam, a child who has been eagerly preparing for this moment. He has always spoken of the need to achieve great merit, seeking to prove himself in the eyes of his father. Now, with the great war upon them, his opportunity has come. However, this war holds even greater significance. It is not merely a battle between righteous and demonic forces. It is also a contest to determine the next successor among the three young masters of the demonic path. Holding her cup delicately, she expresses her concern. Looking to the side, she poses an important question and asks, as a candidate for succession, is their son truly the most likely to emerge victorious? Seated across from Hua Yeon-jung, Jun-myeong, the guardian of the Dark Lord of Destruction, takes a slow sip of his tea. With an air of certainty, he responds to her concerns. He questions whether she still has doubts, reminding her that as the right hand of the Dark Lord, his support alone should be enough to secure their son's position. Hua Yeon-jung, however, remains composed. As a mother, she considers it only natural to worry. She does not seek empty reassurances, but an honest and direct answer regarding her son's fate. Jun-myeong sets his cup down and speaks with confidence. Among the three young masters of the three demonic families, their son is undeniably the most skilled. If he is able to achieve significant merit during this expedition, there will be no more uncertainty. His position as the next successor will be secured. Hua Yeon-jung narrows her eyes, carefully considering his words. The concept of merit is broad, and she seeks clarification. To what extent must her son prove himself? Is complete annihilation of the righteous sects in Shaanxi the requirement? Jun-myeong affirms her suspicion without hesitation. The destruction of both the Huisin and Jongnam sects is necessary. If those two strongholds of righteousness fall, then the young master's path will be clear. With such an achievement, he will no longer be just a contender, he will rise as the next Dark Lord. The Dark Lord of Destruction had launched an attack on Shaolin. The imperial court had officially declared its stance of non-interference in Murim affairs. Meanwhile, one of the three demonic families, the Shaanxi Hwa family, had held a troop dispatch ceremony, signaling their participation in the coming war. The martial arts world was once again plunging into an era of chaos. Jigel Changshin struggles to grasp the enormity of these events. All of this has unfolded in a single day, shaking the very foundation of the righteous sects. As he continues reading through the reports, an overwhelming sense of urgency fills him. If things continue in this direction, there is no clear path forward. At such a crucial moment, they need Yeon-myeong more than ever. Meanwhile, far from the turmoil, Yeon-myeong sprints across an endless desert. The harsh winds whip against his face as he moves through the vast and desolate land. Doubt lingers in his mind as he questions whether this place is truly the Xinjiang Plains. He had expected rocky terrain, but instead he finds himself surrounded by nothing but sand. There is no water in sight, and the barren landscape is unlike anything he has ever seen before. Sensing his confusion, Snaky speaks up, revealing the truth about their surroundings. This is the Taklamakan Desert, an abandoned wasteland, no different from a land of death. It recalls a time long ago when he, alongside the shadowless wanderer, had exterminated an evil dragon known as the Earth Dragon that had once ruled over this place. In the distant past, there existed dragons born with the ability to control the energy of the 5 elements. Among them was the Azure Dragon, which wielded the power of lightning, while each of the other evil dragons governed a different elemental force. The Earth Dragon in particular ruled over earth energy, drawing immense strength from the land itself. During the battle against the Earth Dragon, the creature had absorbed most of the region's energy, draining the very life from the terrain. To prevent further devastation, a ritual master had intervened, setting up a powerful spell formation to divert the earth energy elsewhere. And as a result, the once thriving land had been reduced to this vast and lifeless desert. Snaky reflects on the nature of ritual master spells, explaining that the formation should still be active unless someone has interfered with it. The energy within such formations is long-lasting, designed to endure for centuries if left undisturbed. Yeon-myeong, however, remains puzzled. If the Earth Dragon had already been exterminated, then there should be no reason to maintain the formation any longer. The land had already been drained of its energy, so why keep it in place? Snaky admits that he is not entirely sure, but recalls that one of the ritual masters had strongly opposed the removal of the spell. This individual claimed that dismantling it would create problems directly linked to the survival of the common people. Unlike the others, he was not an orthodox ritual master, but a member of the demon sect. Known as the Night Demon of Defying Heaven, he was regarded as the most skilled ritual master of his time. Despite his affiliation with the demon sect, his abilities far surpassed those of his peers. In fact, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he was capable of casting the entire spell alone. Because of this, neither the other ritual masters nor the shadowless wanderer had objected to his decision. However, unlike traditional ritual masters who followed strict doctrines, he walked an entirely different path. Snaky, still uncertain about the full extent of the Night Demon's intentions, speculates that he may have had other motives for keeping the formation intact. While most ritual masters built their status through spells and sacred knowledge, he had taken a different approach. Instead of relying solely on his own abilities, he commanded evil spirits as his subordinates, using them to expand his influence. It was rumored that with an elevated status, he had gained the ability to perform forbidden techniques while avoiding divine punishment. In other words, he was someone who used forbidden arts without hesitation, disregarding any consequences. Snaky warns Yeon-myeong to be extremely cautious if he comes across any formations left behind by the Night Demon. Hearing this, Yeon-myeong smirks, noting that Snaky is unusually talkative today. With a teasing remark, he asks if Snaky is actually worried about him. Snaky, caught off guard, quickly becomes defensive. Flustered, he'd insist that he is only worried about himself. If Yeon-myeong were to die, then he would perish as well. Amused by the reaction, Yeon-myeong decides to change the subject. Shifting his focus back to their surroundings, he asks just how vast this desert truly is. Meanwhile, the demonic sect leader glances at Munchen and comments that his pace has slowed. He warns him once again to be extremely cautious and to never stray more than 3 steps away from him. Munchen silently acknowledges the warning, realizing just how long they have been walking. It has been several hours since he began following the sect leader, all in pursuit of the reverse blood demon technique. At first, they had been walking along the edge of the desert, but at some point the landscape had started to change in strange and unnatural ways. Now he no longer recognizes where they are. The air feels different, and the surroundings appear warped, making it difficult to grasp the passage of time. His thoughts race as he wonders if this is some kind of formation. The distortions remind him of something he once witnessed during the Tang sect leader competition. The eerie familiarity unsettles him. Just then, the sect leader suddenly stops and announces that they have arrived. Munchen's eyes widen in shock as he looks ahead. Before them stands a massive gate, an imposing structure that seems completely out of place in the middle of the vast desert. The sheer size of the door is unfathomable, as if it has no right to exist in such an environment. Noticing his reaction, the sect leader calmly tells him that this is only the beginning, and that there's far more to be surprised about. Without hesitation, he pulls out a talisman and marks the surface of the enormous door. In an instant, flames erupt around it, engulfing the talisman. As the fire burns away, the massive gate creaks open from within. A suffocating pressure spills out, an overwhelming force so intense that even the smallest creatures caught in its presence are crushed instantly. Munchen watches in astonishment. Beyond the threshold of the gate, the space itself seems to shift into something entirely different from the desert they had just traversed. It is not merely another part of the landscape, it is as if they have stepped into an entirely separate world. And as his gaze sweeps across the new surroundings, he notices something even more striking. When he had studied poisons at the Tang family, he had encountered most of the common plants used in medicine and toxins. Yet here, in this strange place, he finds himself surrounded by vegetation he has never seen before in his life. Unfamiliar and exotic, the plants seem almost otherworldly, further confirming that they have entered a domain unlike anything he has ever known. The sect leader surveys the area before turning to Muchin. He reveals that this place is his secret training ground, a sanctuary created hundreds of years ago by the first sect leader using nothing but the power of his mental imagery. This domain, shaped by sheer will, exists solely for those who inherit the bloodline of the first leader. Only they possess the authority to open and close its massive gate. With this in mind, the sect leader informs Muchin that he will be able to train here without any interruptions. He urges him to dedicate himself fully to his training, emphasizing that if he reaches the fire realm, the sect's power will grow even further. With both the left and right envoys already in place, his advancement would strengthen their forces significantly. Hearing this, Muchin immediately falls to the ground, bowing deeply in gratitude. He expresses his sincere thanks for this invaluable opportunity, understanding the weight of the privilege he has been granted. Now that his words are finished, the sect leader shifts his attention elsewhere. His expression darkens slightly as he calls for someone to reveal themselves. In an instant, a strange being emerges from the shadows. Muchin's eyes widen in disbelief as he finds himself staring at an unfamiliar creature, a mix between a deer and a human. The sight is unlike anything he has ever encountered before. The sect leader greets the being without hesitation. Surprisingly, the creature known as a method deer responds with actual speech, acknowledging his presence and stating that they heed his call. The voice, though steady, only adds to Muchin's growing confusion. The existence of such creatures defies everything he knows. After exchanging a few words with the method deer, the sect leader turns back to Muchin. He informs him that these beings will assist him in managing his daily needs throughout his training. This place is meant for complete focus, and their presence will ensure that nothing distracts him from his goal. For the final time, the sect leader asks if Muchin has reconsidered his decision. However, Muchin remains unwavering, his resolve stronger than ever. He refuses to waver, fixated on the power he seeks to obtain. Without wasting another moment, the sect leader raises his hand and unleashes his power. Using the heavenly demon divine technique, he increases the flow of energy within Muchin's body. A wave of unbearable pain follows immediately. The agony surpasses anything Muchin has ever experienced, far worse than the demonic energy outbursts he endured in the past. His body begins to break apart from within, his bones shattering before rapidly regenerating, only to break once more. Every fiber of his being undergoes reconstruction, reshaped by the violent surge of power. The sect leader watches with keen interest. If Muchin can endure this suffering, then he will emerge as strong as the immortal demon once was. Satisfied with his decision, the sect leader turns away, leaving Muchin to his trial. And just as he steps beyond the threshold, he seals the massive door behind him, ensuring that the training ground remains undisturbed. Meanwhile, as Yeon-myeong continues moving forward, he suddenly comes across an enormous formation embedded into the earth, the reverse dragon ceiling formation. The sight of it causes Snaky to react with shock. This is no ordinary structure. It is a formation of immense power, specifically designed to eliminate the earth dragon in the past. However, Yeon-myeong quickly notices something strange beneath the killing formation. A dark, unsettling presence lingers underneath, something unnatural and ominous. His sharp senses immediately pick up on it. Snaky, now more intrigued than ever, is impressed by Yeon-myeong's ability to detect the disturbance. Most people would not have been able to notice anything, yet Yeon-myeong has managed to perceive it despite the formation's complexity. He quickly realizes the truth beneath the ceiling formation. Thousands of evil spirits are gathered, absorbing the remnants of the earth dragon's energy. It becomes clear that someone has been using these spirits to build up their power, treating them as mere tools to strengthen their influence. There is no hesitation in their methods. They are willing to manipulate and enslave these entities for their own gain. Yeon-myeong, now fully aware of the situation, feels a deep sense of unease. Dealing with more than 1,000 spirits will not be easy. If they are immune to physical attacks, like the Chim morio he encountered before, then it will be even more troublesome. The battle against them could become an exhausting struggle, one that he may not have time for before facing the demon sect. And as he contemplates his next move, he notices something unusual. Snaky, who had been quiet for a moment, now has an unmistakable look of hunger in his eyes. His long, snake-like body trembles with excitement, and his mouth hangs open, drooling uncontrollably. It is as if he has just spotted an enormous feast laid out before him. Understanding what Snaky is hinting at, Yeon-myeong gives him a look before granting him permission. Without hesitation, Snaky eagerly asks once more, seeking confirmation. Yeon-myeong simply shrugs, making it clear that he is no ritual master and has no deep knowledge of spirits or demons. This kind of battle is not something he is best suited for. However, Snaky, with his abilities, should be more than capable of handling them. At his level, dealing with these spirits should not be a difficult task. Snaky is slightly surprised by how quickly he agreed. Yeon-myeong, however, remains firm, stating that the matter is settled. His body and energy are already pushed to the limit after traveling across this vast desert. Before facing the demon sect, he needs at least a day of rest. Since Snaky is eager to take on the task, he will allow him to manifest, but he reminds him to finish it as quickly as possible. Without wasting time, Snaky undergoes a rapid transformation, his form expanding into a massive beast. His body looms over the ground, radiating an intense aura of power. Just before departing, he offers Yeon-myeong a final piece of advice. If he moves north toward the desert's border, he will come across a village. Yeon-myeong stays silent, watching as Snaky plunges into the formation. As soon as he enters, he is met with a vast net woven from talismans layered with an intricate energy flow. These talismans pulse with power, forming a protective barrier designed to entrap intruders. While moving through the formation, Snaky suddenly detects an immense force rushing toward him. It does not belong to a master, but rather to a hungry spirit filled with raw aggression. He quickly realizes what this means. The guardian of this formation has taken notice of his presence. Emerging from the depths of the seal, a fearsome creature steps forward. This being is no ordinary spirit. It is the four-eyed divine hound, a guardian entity bound to this place. Its presence is overwhelming, its glowing eyes lock onto Snaky with intense focus. Without hesitation, the hound delivers its judgment. Any intruder who dares set foot here must be eliminated, no matter who they are. And that was it from today's video. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today's like goal is 1,500 likes. Comment next part down below to see what happens next. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.